Welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast, the podcast devoted to the local music scene in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, here's your host, Matthew Ablin.
Hello and welcome to episode 96 of the Queen City Music Podcast. This episode of the QCMP is sponsored by Midwood Guitar Studio, Charlotte, North Carolina's own boutique guitar shop located in Plaza Midwood. Midwood Guitar Studio not only has the finest selection of boutique guitars, but familiar names like Fender, Martin, Taylor, Two Rock, and many others. Whether it's a guitar, bass, amp, effects pedal, or a much-needed accessory, the knowledgeable and friendly staff at Midwood Guitar Studio will help guide you in the right direction for your next purchase. And Midwood Guitar Studio also has a luthier on staff for all your repair needs. Visit their website at midwoodguitarstudio.com or stop in to see their unique shop at 1517 Central Avenue, Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'd like to welcome our newest sponsor, Goldie's, the spot for live music and food in the heart of Charlotte's Lower South End. Goldie's offers unpretentious food like smash burgers, wraps, pizza, and my favorite, the pulled chicken quesadillas. And while enjoying food and drinks, take in the live music featuring some of Charlotte's best musical acts. The music starts Fridays at 6 p.m. and Saturdays at 5 p.m. Check out their weekly live music schedule at goldiesclt.com or stop in at 3601 South Boulevard, Charlotte, North Carolina. By the way, if you have a business and would like to become a sponsor of the QCMP, like our friends at Midwood Guitar Studio and Goldie's, drop me a line at qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com and I'll discuss all the information with you. And if you enjoy the podcast, drop by MatthewAblin.com, where you'll find my upcoming performance dates, social media links, original music, and a host of other information. This month on episode 96 of the Queen City Music Podcast, I'm speaking with guitarist Edward Crowther, who's quickly making a name for himself on the Charlotte music scene. He's a musician unafraid of wearing his influences like a badge of honor, and his music reflects the true spirit of rock and roll. Edward was kind enough to sit down and talk about his journey as a young musician navigating the current landscape of the music business. Edward Crowther, welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks, man. It's really a blast. I said to you, when you walked in the door, it's always funny to me to just meet people that I'm friendly with on Instagram or Facebook as musicians or local musicians. And then finally in person, I'm like, oh, so nice to meet you instead of following just your posts. So.
Yeah, put things to real life. So.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to shake hands with people and just, look them in the eye and be like, hey, what's up? So man, are you originally from the Queen City? Are you from Charlotte?
Yeah. So my, relationship with the city of Charlotte. So my dad, he was born and raised here and grew up, here. So I was actually born in Raleigh, but I grew up coming to Charlotte my whole life pretty much.
Okay.
And then, in college, majored in finance. So you either go to New York or Charlotte, on the East Coast. So, Charlotte was just kind of the right fit for me. So that's essentially how I landed here and have been here since 22.
Since what year?
2022.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So relatively new to the area.
Yeah. So a couple years. Right out of college.
Okay.
Moved right down here. So.
Awesome. What's your music background, man? I know you play guitar. You're a guitar player in town, but, fill me in.
Yeah. So my background, I guess, like growing up and whatnot, my parents and family, like there wasn't ever like a prior musician or like big music influence there. But for me, sort of my introduction to music was through Portugal the Man. That was really what actually got me into music. It's
funny you mentioned that because I saw that on your website of your influences. Yeah. I had no idea what that was.
Yeah.
And then I had to Google it, and then I remember hearing a couple of their songs. So
yeah. John's awesome. Seen them a couple times live, and I got to see him in Nashville not too long ago. But long story short, I remember I think the song I heard was Modern Jesus by them off Evil Friends, and that just made the whole music thing click for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big part of my background, just on how John would approach things lyrically and sort of that indie rock type sound.
You're right.
So I started in that camp, and this was like the summer of 2016 when I started playing guitar.
Okay.
And then by the end of that summer, going into my freshman year of high school, that's where I sort of had the classic rock, GNR influences and that.
Is that because of your parents?
Really, I actually accidentally found them playing Knocking on Heaven's Door in Tokyo Dome, 92 on accident.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, that's what I want to do. Like, so
that's
those,
rock and roll.
Yeah, that's the foundation in terms of my background, and just kind of ran from it from there. So,
and you started playing. Did you start taking some lessons with somebody, or are you a self-taught person? Because given your age, of course, you're younger than me, but
yeah,
I didn't grow up with YouTube, so I know a lot of young players who just they start with YouTube videos.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I did. I didn't really ever take any lessons. I haven't, really taken any at all. For me, my approach has just been teaching myself and kind of focusing on the things that like interest me. I think that's an important part, because I think with lessons, like they can be super great, especially if there's like stuff that you don't know how to do.
Right.
But also it's like if you're learning music that you're not passionate about, or like what gets you going.
Yeah.
So for me, when it came to like teaching myself, a lot of that was like in the slash world of licks, or like, that approach to playing, or, more of that dreamy rock and roll Portugal the Man vibe. So that's kind of where things sit for me, but that's sort of the avenues I took in terms of teaching myself. And like you said, using YouTube and stuff like that.
Man, I give you a lot of credit, because I think I've talked to you about it on the podcast before, but I am not that guy.
Yeah.
Like, I need somebody to kind of be like, oh man, you're going to do this, and you're going to hold this, and you're going to, because I remember when I started as a kid, man, of course there wasn't YouTube at that time, but trying to learn from books or some like mail-in method that I would get, it was, dude, it wasn't easy, and I was not that guy who just instinctively did it. So
yeah, I mean, there's definitely like, I think I'm at a point now in my, journey with my instruments that, I might consider taking some lessons here or there just to like expand my horizon on different things.
Sure.
But like definitely in the early stages, it was just all being, self-taught and diving into anything I could for it.
Just finding some good YouTube videos on things and figuring out things like
YouTube videos. I mean, I also spend hours on like gear stuff, like, what type of gear got this sound,
right.
Putting all that together. So, I mean, but I would spend, I mean, I remember in high school, I mean, I got a D in chemistry because I'd come home and spend time, going 8 hours over guitar scales and, playing. So, but yeah, I, mainly been self-taught, my entire career so far.
That's great. I feel that, because like when I was a kid, I'd read articles about like guitar players like Randy Rhoads, and he was like, I want to drop out of high school because my mom wouldn't let me, because I just wanted to play guitar. And man, for like a hot minute, I was like, that's what I need to do. I need to drop out of high school and just play guitar 8 hours a day. And
that was my mindset too. Like I didn't want to go to college, and my parents made me, and probably a good thing. But yeah, I was in that same mindset where it's just like, once guitar entered into my like, worldview, I was like, everything else went right out the door, and it was just guitar 24/7.
I think that's a thing when certain people get bitten by the music bug. It could be a guitar player, it could be a sax player. If you get bitten by it strong, man, that's kind of takes over everything. Yeah,
it's your whole world at that point.
I see some of these young kids on Instagram or YouTube, and they're playing, and just to get as good as they are, where they're tearing it up. Like I don't know her name off the top of my head. There's this young girl. She's got to be like 11 or 12, maybe. And I actually think she was at the NAMM show this year. Yeah. She's a bass player. I don't know if you ever know who I'm talking about, but this little girl tears it up. Yeah. Tears it. And I'm like, how much time has that little girl spent playing bass? Yeah. To get that good at that young. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah. Well, and on that subject, it's even more incredible when there's like, 100 of them. Because at NAMM, when I went there this past year, like there were so many talented, players that were like, they weren't even 15 yet. And it's just like, holy smokes. So like, they're definitely, their whole lives are probably definitely structured all around the music, which is great. Yeah. They're just completely soaked into it, and it's just everything for them.
Yeah, I would hope that they're getting that full experience though, and it's not just an Instagram like, trying to be famous. Like, hopefully they're getting together with other musicians and playing regularly and developing and being creative.
Yeah, I think that's super important, and like, especially to like be an artist. Yeah. I mean, obviously you can play, cover stuff, and, that's kind of the recipe you see a lot on social media to some degree. But, there's so many different avenues you can take off of that. Yeah. I know some of them when I was there, I saw play at the Whiskey, and they were doing all like these really cool like secret jam sessions and stuff at NAMM, which was it was very inspirational because you're just like, you know, you can be every day you can be a better musician.
Sure.
So it was really cool to see that.
I definitely want to get into NAMM a little bit later
Yeah.
to talk about your experience there because, as we talked about before, it's on my bucket list. So I'm always kind of curious to talk to people about their experiences.
Yeah.
But anyway, take things back a little bit. You start playing guitar, you're getting really into it. And you mentioned to me that you kind of just did a lot of original stuff. You weren't really a big cover player. How did that come about that you didn't really kind of do a lot of cover tunes or get involved in cover groups much?
So I think for me, like big thing with my, relationship with music, like when I picked up my guitar for the first time, like that day I was trying to write my own stuff. So for whatever reason, I think just being a creator was just kind of how I've always been.
Right.
In the past I'd had YouTube channels and stuff for other, miscellaneous hobbies and all that. So I was always kind of creating. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, and I guess what was the second part?
What made you really just get into just doing the original stuff?
Yeah, I think for me, it was just like a desire to create, and wanting to be able to like put my stamp on something.
Right.
I think that was something I registered a lot with, like, if you look at artists like John Gorley of, Portugal the Man, or Slash of GNR, like they all had their own imprint, or like, Tom from Boston, like,
sure,
those are all influences of mine, and they all kind of built these careers being original artists.
Right.
And I think for me, like, I just loved creating. I love the process of like, well, if I use this amp with this guitar, I'm going to get this sound, or, just that whole process. Because for me, as a musician, I love to play out live, but my happy place is in the studio, getting to create and tinker with stuff. But yeah, and I think too, like, even though cover music's great, I was in a cover band for a couple years. At the end of the day, you're playing someone else's song.
Sure.
You're not playing what's truly yours. So I think a little bit of that is just the need of self-expression and having that, tool to do that as an artist.
That's interesting, man, because I think for me, almost in a similar sense, but I did play cover stuff, but I had a really weird experience when I was younger.
Yeah.
Like, I started learning stuff. I was in a cover band for a short time, but by the time I was 18, I realized, like, this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I started studying classical guitar, and then talk about covers, you're playing classical guitar music. It's all covers basically.
Yeah.
And that's where I got into it. And then I just went from there by the time I was 18. So I didn't spend a lot of time learning tons of Zeppelin songs or tons of Black Sabbath stuff.
Yeah.
I did learn some stuff, but now today I'm doing a lot of solo acoustic stuff.
Okay.
Which is basically, in a sense, the one thing I like is that I'm able to kind of do the tunes the way I want to do them.
Right.
So even though they're not my original tunes, I kind of put my own little spin on them, which is, I'm not like it's got to be exactly the way the artist. Yeah. I don't dig that,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Like, there's a lot of solos and stuff that I'll make sure that the core melody's there, but if, you can tinker with it a little bit, make it your own, I'll do that same thing.
Yeah. So as you started getting older and you were in your teens, did you put together bands when you were up in Raleigh?
Yeah. So, I mean, my career around like bands is pretty streamlined. A lot of people when they start off, maybe they've been in a couple of different bands, but my first band, Bourbon, that was my first introduction. So like I've always been kind of the guy creating something, building it from scratch up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had not, like, leading up to that, been in like other bands or like, maybe miscellaneous projects. Like for me, I was like, all right, I want to start a 5-piece hard rock group, kind of using Aerosmith, GNR as the blueprint.
Right.
And then just jumped straight into that. And that was sort of my approach for it in my teens. And that really went on all through high school and then the early part of college for me. And then that project ended up, coming to a close.
So when you were putting Bourbon, Bourbon, is that it?
Yeah, I think we pronounce it just like bourbon.
Okay. That's what I thought. I thought it was like a twist on the name. Almost like a suburban, but bourbon.
Yeah, I think it was because we were in band practice and we were practicing, in the suburbs, and somehow that influenced the way we spelled it. But yeah, and kind of just brought that name up for it. So.
I got a chance to listen to those guys or your old group on Spotify. It was real interesting to see like obviously a bunch of young guys putting together their stuff. And I always have to just smile when I see young people getting into rock and roll, man. It just puts a big smile on my face. It's like, this is so nice to see young people are just really into this and building it up. Yeah.
It's important to still have that, especially in this time where, we're starting to see a big resurgence of it, which is great.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see where that goes as we have more and more young people kind of, carrying the flag for the genre, which is good.
How long did the bourbon last?
Let's see. I think we kind of started around 2016, 2017, and things, pretty much wrapped up when the pandemic hit. So, somewhere around like, 3.5-ish, 4 years, somewhere in there. So, it had 3 different lineups to it.
Okay.
So, there were some pauses between there, getting all that, figured out. But yeah, I mean, it was a good run for a couple years, and I think it was a good experience in terms of just having, starting your own band and teaching yourself the industry through that methodology.
So just out of curiosity, did that group come to an end because you wound up moving down to this area?
No, the story on that, man, that you could spend hours on.
Difference of opinions.
Yeah.
Huh?
Long story short, we had a member of that band kind of just get in some trouble and completely torched the brand I'd built after 3 years. So, and I think some folks were going to be moving at the time too, and then the pandemic. So you kind of add all that together, and it created this perfect storm around it.
Was that a pretty serious band for you at that time? I'm sure, if you're putting all into it.
We had talked about, going to Los Angeles, and whether it was for like a couple shows or stuff. But like, I mean, for me, whenever I approach music, like it can't ever, I have struggled to ever just keep it as like a hobby in the corner type thing.
Sure.
Some people play in bands because they're like, it's fun to do or whatever, but for me it's like it's my whole life.
Right.
So for that band it was a very serious commitment to it. And something I put a lot of time, money into to try making it the best that it could be for, a bunch of college dudes, trying to figure out how do the pieces go together for a band.
So out of curiosity, I mean, I did listen to stuff on Spotify, but it wasn't clear. It's just singles that you guys had released, or was it an EP and then? Yeah,
we started off with an EP and then we did a bunch of singles after that.
Okay.
So I mean, especially on today's, industry, like singles are a lot with what artists are doing.
Sure.
And I think too, like, when you think about studio costs and whatnot, it's a little bit easier, like, to get people on board getting that out there. Cause, when I was bringing in a new lineup for that, everybody was like, oh, I want to be on the recorded material because I didn't sing on this song or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, all right, well, the quickest way we can make that happen is to do a single,
Right.
So we released a handful of singles, but the first release was an EP called Shot of Rock.
Okay.
It was very bare bones. Really a lot of it until we did our last couple singles, which we recorded at the App State recording studio. So had a little bit more of a polished production to it.
That's great.
Which was, but that whole experience was awesome. So
it's just you just built upon not knowing anything from the start and then starting to build everything.
Exactly.
So at what point do you go from I'm in Bourbon, I'm putting together this band, it's under a band name.
Yeah.
At what point do you go, I'm done with that?
Yeah.
Like it's going to be the Edward Crowther band.
Yeah. So this is and I'm glad you're asking this because I get a lot of questions about this, like at shows and stuff.
Yeah.
So if anyone ever asks in the future, I'm going to send them here to get an answer. So for me, when Bourbon ended, I actually was pretty bitter about the whole music thing because it was like I couldn't do what I wanted to do because of other people. You know, the drummer, got us in some hot water with the music community, even though myself and the rest of the band weren't involved and, didn't partake or whatnot, and fired the guy. Right.
Right.
But, at that point I had kind of told myself, all right, we're going to hang this up. So I remember I had this awesome 80s JCM 800. I sold all my equipment except my guitars.
Wow, that soured on it, huh?
Yeah. And at that point I had a mindset shift that I was like, all right, well, if I can't do what it is that I love, I'll just go get, a job that'll pay really well. And then, I'll enjoy music as a hobby or just put it in the closet.
Sure.
Well, fast forward, when you've already been bit by music, you can't really just put it away. So,
It's not possible.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was even a couple months, but really started to kind of just want to come back into it. And I was like, well, if you think about it, most bands to some degree are already set up like a solo project. I mean, if you look at Boston,
sure.
Tom was really the head of that. There's usually one or two people are pulling the strings.
Right.
And, with Bourbon, like pretty much all of those songs, I wrote all of them, and did most of the lyrics for some of them too. Doesn't mean I did all of it, but the point being is that basically creating all of that, I was already the creative force anyway. Gotcha. And was sort of the person pumping out this material. So it's like, well, if I can't do music on a touring level or professionally, I can at least set it up to be an independent distributor of my music and can release music online. And then that way music's still in my life.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, I released my first single. And then over the years, that's just created this snowball effect of like, okay, now we're releasing more singles. All right, now we have a touring entity. We're selling merch. We got a website. We LLC,
sure.
royalties, and I think that just goes back to just like, for me, I'm just an addict to music. Like, it's just never going to be, something I can put in a box and just
right.
put it on the shelf. So, but that transition really was just to give myself a platform that I could create without any type of like, restriction.
Right.
And then it's just snowballed into what it is today.
And putting people in the place to help you
exactly.
achieve what you want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think I saw a interesting thing. I don't know if you have caught it. If you watch Rick Beato, some of his video, he talked about the death of bands.
Yeah.
And it was really just curious to watch how a lot of stuff has become solo artists or the main person, and everybody else is kind of almost hired in that aspect around it.
Yeah.
If you're listening and you want to go check that out, I'm not sure exactly what the title of the video was, but it's a good thing to see how it's solo artists today.
Yeah. I've seen that video. I mean, a great example of it, especially in rock, is like Youngblood. He's, has some awesome material, is really kind of bringing that rock to a wider audience, but it's not on the band model. It's, he as the artist is the entity that everything's sort of living through, to kind of bring that to people. So, and that's another thing too, like with bands, they can be awesome, but like, the other thing around it is like, for me, like on a legal perspective, like all my royalties and all that is very streamlined. There's not like, I need to cut 5-8 members into this because, it's not their project.
Sure.
They're just, I'll hire people to maybe do certain parts like the drums, but usually I'll like write that myself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of advantages to just setting it up that way. Cause then the other thing too, and what we were talking about earlier with Bourbon, there was 3 different lineup changes.
Right.
And it's like, when you're, have your favorite band and the member you like decides to quit, it changes the whole brand.
Right.
So as a solo artist, as long as I'm around, the brand is intact and where it needs to go, which is another strategy around it. Yeah,
and ultimately when you're writing songs and you're doing, if you don't know and you're listening, ultimately when you are doing publishing rights for things,
mm-hmm.
the songwriter is the one who gets the majority of the money, and then the lyricist.
Yeah.
So you've got those two entities, the songwriter, the music writer and the lyricist.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I feel bad for drummers unless they're Neil Peart and they're writing the lyrics.
Yeah.
The drummers, they're considered part of the arrangement. They're not considered part of the music.
Exactly.
And unless you are in a band situation where the band is interested in everybody being an equal member and everything, it's like Rush, it was every 30%, 33%, 33%, 33%. Everybody gets a share. We're not fighting over royalties.
Yeah.
And now there's some bands that I've seen that, classic 80s bands, there's always infighting over who is making more money. The Police is a perfect example because Sting just got sued by the other two guys years later for was it Every Breath You Take, I want to say, or Roxanne or something, one of the songs.
One of the big ones.
Yeah. And he had to pay them like $700,000 or something like that in back royalties. Like,
yeah. I mean, you have to be careful about it. I mean, like, my platform's very similar to like Yngwie Malmsteen, especially as a guitarist. And like, I saw him post something the other day where like, he didn't get work for hire agreements or something with vocalists, and they're having disputes over it. So it's like, I mean, there's a lot to be said on like once you start understanding the business and people like start to see that, like, oh, it makes sense why people structured it this way. Because a lot of people that love music just from the onset, they don't see all that. Right. It's all behind the curtain. I know when I first started, I didn't know about any of this. Right. And a lot of it is I've kind of learned in the last 3 or 4 years. So it's like, when you kind of look at it, it's like, oh, this is how this works. Sure. And now I understand why maybe this band broke up, and I can see why that person decided to leave.
Yeah. Well, I think just listening to you talk and understanding where you're coming from, it's really great to hear a younger musician understand the music business part of it. Yeah. Because a lot of people just go into it and go, I just want to play music. Yeah. And they don't understand that whole other side of it, where I think, one, if you go into it understanding the business, you're going to have a lot of protections for yourself. Yeah. 2, you're not going to have a lot of regrets in that sense, because you're going to know, like, I'm not getting ripped off by somebody. Like, you're not handing me a contract, and I'm just going to be like, oh, I got a contract. You're like, yeah, let's go through this. Yeah. And if I don't understand, I'm going to talk to my lawyer. You know what I mean? Yeah, things like that. Exactly. I understand how it's going to go.
Yeah. I mean, I've been offered a couple contracts for different stuff, whether it's like marketing or like radio, getting songs on radio or whatever. Sure. And, like I've, read the contracts. So I'm like, this is not something I'm going to sign. And then, they want thousands of dollars, and it's like a lot of artists might have signed that, right. Which, you have to have those protections in place. 'Cause that's the other thing is, you kind of climb the ladder. More people want to get involved in what you're building. Sure. And they want a piece of the pie, and it just, gets complicated. So
how did you delve into the business aspect of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it, as I mentioned earlier, majored in finance and banking. Yeah. So, I do work in like the investment banking, private equity sector by day. And so like we work with a lot of contracts, like very in-depth stuff. And I think for me, I've always been a very entrepreneurial. I've had a couple of my own small businesses, like whether it was in high school with like a junk removal business or other stuff. And I'd say, with the Edward Crowther band and this project, that's been like my first like official LLC and kind of taking that step. Sure. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, I just have had an interest in it. Mm-hmm. And I think too, like, any advice I'd give to artists is like, if you're really serious about this, like, talk to people that are in the business. Like, I remember I had a consultation. I'll give a little shout out to Dave Rose. He's the CEO of Deep South Entertainment. Okay. And, we did some consulting. And when you kind of start talking to people that are, in the industry like that, and you just kind of get a little bit of a bigger perspective on like, okay, I need to structure this way. Because it's like, if you're going to do music full time or that's your goal, you might as well be all in on that. Sure. And not kind of just be like, well, maybe I'll, get an LLC in the future if it takes off, or, other stuff like that. And it also makes things easier. Like, I know for me, I've had an interest in like doing like sync licensing and stuff. And it's like, you can't even enter into that arena unless you own all your copyrights. Right. So, I think a lot of it is just interest, but it's also, if you're going to do the music thing, you gotta know the business too and how it all works. Yeah.
Wow. It's real great to hear somebody, talk about it. Yeah. Did you just learned a lot of it by yourself, or were you talking to anybody, getting some, besides Dave Rose?
Yeah. I mean, I got this, there's a book, I think you can find it on Amazon. It's like everything you need to know in the music business. Okay. It's like $18 or something. That's been pretty helpful. I think also too, like there's been lessons I've learned. Like I know that there's been like co-write sessions that I like. So it's interesting having a finance background. Like I remember one of the things I did early on in my career is I thought if I was paying for someone to do something on my track that I owned it, and maybe you own the, the recording, but the compositional part is different, So like I learned that lesson the hard way. And had to pay some money to kind of get ownership of what I needed. But like, stuff like that. And then also too, just like asking people that, you know, I've been fortunate enough to have coached me. Like I was talking with someone the other day about like, you know, venues and how to negotiate with them as an original artist. You know, what are the things that I need to do to make sure like my band's getting a guarantee and stuff like that. So I think a lot of it is just like, I really would love to be able to do music full time. And the only way you can really do that is if music is supplying that income.
Sure.
So I'm like, you know, constantly trying to figure out this long equation of, you know, how do you kind of make this work and balance everything. So I think that inherent interest around that kind of has me, you know, always trying to look into things a little bit deeper. And then obviously with that finance background, like doing the research, like I think a lot of musicians probably would never go open like a 10K for like Live Nation.
Right.
Like go read the reports on like, you know, what markets are hot for entertainment, you know, how many, you know, seats are being filled. Stuff
I don't
like
even
that.
know what that is. What's a 10K?
Yeah. It's just like a company's annual report.
Okay. All right.
They have to publish them, you know, just in guidance with the law and stuff. And, you know, they'll have a lot of information on like, you know, what they did performance wise, but you'll get industry updates and stuff. I'm sure a lot of them right now will talk about like AI being implemented, or like, I would imagine probably some of the record labels probably have 10Ks too, but like, or like Spotify, you know, you can go read about how they're probably, you know, unfortunately, but probably integrating AI and stuff. And they'll probably talk about like, here's what we anticipate that this is going to change for our business. And
a 10K, just out of curiosity, because I've never heard the term, but is it different than a prospectus of what the company's been doing?
The prospectus is like more like a shorter announcement, or very like an overview of the company. Like, you know, if you're looking to make an investment, you know, here's a prospectus. You can look at what its return and stuff, but the 10K really talks about how the business performed. You're going to get all their financial statements, the industry. They'll talk about risk that are going on. It sometimes is like a 300-400 page document.
Wow.
But if you know which areas to go into, I wouldn't recommend reading all of it. It's very, very, very dry.
A lot of legal jargon, I'm sure, too.
Yeah. So,
gosh, we'll circle back. You leave Bourbon behind. You go into the Edward Crowther band. Mm-hmm. Is there? Do you find it a little different? Is it a little tougher to navigate because now it's your name?
Yeah,
you're not operating under a band name, and in a certain way, you're not reliant on other people.
Yeah,
in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest dynamic change around it. I remember our first. Yeah, so I guess to kind of add context, so the project had been around for a couple years, and then last year the band part I was able to actually find. Mm-hmm. And so like I had been just releasing material, and you know that had been great. But I think the biggest transition was when we finally had that first show. Our first show was at Petra's in Plaza Midwood, and I just remember I was like, man, this is kind of interesting. Like people are here to listen to my songs under my name. I had not experienced that before.
Okay.
So I think like there were some nerves around that a little bit.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think with any project I've been in, like whether it's like just the way I perform on stage and play, like a pretty significant presence, you know, from that perspective. So like whether it was Bourbon or like cover band projects I had been in, like always had kind of been sort of a face of those to a degree. But yeah, I mean, I think it was interesting, I think, to say the least, just to have a different approach to it, and also seeing how people react to that.
Right.
Like I've gotten a lot of people that would say like, why did you name your band after you? Like, that's not cool. And it's like,
really?
Like, yeah. And I'm like, like I see, you know, it worked for the Marshall Tucker band. It worked for Marcus
Dave
King
Matthews.
Band. Yeah. That's like, you know, when I think about like, you know, some of these great band names, like I think about a very different operation and how that works.
Sure.
And it's like, for me, it's like, you know, it doesn't make sense to come up with some name to market this. Like,
yeah.
This is my thing that I do. And it's, you know, if you're into it, go buy a ticket and come out. If not, like, hey, that's all good.
Now, that begs the question, because I'm curious, being that it's your band with your name on it, mm-hmm. and we're talking about other groups, those other groups are normally even if it's their guitar player, they're also the singer too.
Yeah.
So you could think of Dave Matthews. I could think of, Marshall Tucker. Yeah. You know, all these people are singing.
Yeah.
So are you doing any singing in the group?
Yeah. So and that's another thing people have brought up. So I don't really do much singing. I did sing on the single 20, but we don't really perform that one live because it's like just a totally different vibe than the rest of the catalog.
Sure.
But yeah, typically what we'll do, I mean, I'll have a singer come in and sing the material. And it's, I kind of like will compare what I do very similar to like George Lynch or Yngwie Malmsteen or like Slash and the Conspirators, where, the guitar is sort of that forefront act that you're kind of coming to see.
Gotcha.
And that's sort of the artist, but, you do have the band there to support that.
Got it.
So it's a little bit niche, and I think when people kind of see that there's other artists that have done that and have had success, and they're like, oh, again, back to what we were talking about the business, like, oh, now it makes sense why this person's structured. Or like, I think Joe Perry just went on tour, Joe Perry and Friends, and it's the same kind of structure, just a great rock band,
Ringo Starr's all-star band.
Yeah, exactly, So, but yeah, I mean, I'd love in the future maybe to get some singing under my belt. That's something I would recommend for me, at least, to get lessons on, not to be self-taught. Yeah,
it's fun. I mean, when I started singing, which is funny because when I started playing guitar, I didn't sing at all for years. And then when I became a music educator, I kind of got forced into it. So before I left Ohio, I was taking vocal lessons to learn how to sing. And I found, wow, I've got a voice.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it because at that time when I was younger, I thought I had to sing like my idols. I thought I had to have be able to hit highs like Robert Plant, or I had to have that whole operatic thing that Ronnie James Dio have, and I didn't have it.
Right.
I mean, at that time, I was like a chain smoking kid smoking cigarettes. So I was like, get raspy boy. I can't sing. And the first time I did try to sing, I think I was in my 20s. And I sang Born on the Bayou with a cover band, and they were like, oh, you're not bad. And I'm like, I didn't know the key. I couldn't hit the notes perfectly. But fast forward years later, which my point being, I didn't start singing until I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
And that developed over the last like 20 years of like getting better and better and better and better. So yeah, man, I mean, you might find once you do it, like, you're going to find your voice, don't feel like you've got to sound like every other one of your idols.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing with it too is like, I'd say vocally, like I'm very much sing like John does from Portugal the Man, or like Jim Croce, like that type of vocal. So it's like, I have tried to sing some of my singles before that are, that 80s rock vibe. And I'm like, yeah, we can't put that on stage, So I think also it'd be cool to like for different tracks switch off, or find things that you can mesh those two vocal styles to create something new. But yeah, I've actually, if anyone that's listening is a vocal coach, or yourself, I've been kind of thinking about getting vocal lessons, in the future, just to kind of sharpen my knowledge on it.
Yeah, man, it's the one thing I think you'll find, and I'd be curious to talk to you in a few years after you start singing.
Yeah,
is being a guitar player, and I think a lot of guitar players I've talked to about it. There's certain things you can sing and play at the same time, and other things that you can't. You start, you might come up with this great riff, and you're like, crap, I can't sing over that because I can't get my head to do it at the same time as my fingers. The rhythm might be a little challenging for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I had someone that was like, oh, you should just sing your own songs and then simplify all your guitar parts. And I was like, but that's kind of what I do, So it's like I can't, take out the, riffs because that's the iconic part of the song.
Yeah.
So, the singing and playing it, I can do it with chords, but some of the riffs I have, I know like my mind just struggles to go to two different places at the same time. So kudos to those that have figured it out. It's a talent in itself just to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a thing of where listening to other singing guitar players would really help out. Like, I haven't studied his stuff in depthly, but if I remember listening to a lot of Hendrix stuff, the stuff he's playing while he's singing is not especially intricate, but he'd be playing, and then when he takes breaks from the vocals, that's when these great fills and things like that would come in. He's not playing anything super intricate while he's trying to sing.
Yeah, he's probably, when I think about like singing guitarist, he's probably like the first one that comes to mind. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I'd like to explore. And even in the studio, like, and I think another thing of it is, like, I always on stage feel more comfortable just behind a guitar anyway. Yeah. And kind of doing that. Because the other thing is, you know, I hate being strapped to a mic. Because I like to run around and move and stuff. So that's another thing about it is it's like, you know, do you take that element away to trade off? I don't know. So, but I think that they're, you know, I'd love to do, I think we've been talking about the band doing like backing vocals as a good warm up to kind of, you know, get some different sounds, but also kind of figure out like, what's my voice? How does that work in placement? Understanding that. So yeah, I mean, we'll see where it goes. Hopefully we get started on it though this year.
Yeah. So. There's a certain fear when you start singing though, man. There's a safety of being the guitar player and you're off on the side and you can, move around and do your thing but being the singer, all of a sudden you are the center of attention.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it's a little tougher. Yeah. It's a little tougher.
It's a different environment for sure.
I'd love to talk to you, like I said, if you get into it and you start doing it and see what your experience is doing it. All right, so let's get into it, man. So you write a lot of original stuff. What is your songwriting process? You told me when you did Bourbon, you wrote not all the lyrics and everything, but you did a majority of stuff. So are you coming up with riffs and then are you adding lyrics over it, or are you coming up with lyrics and writing them down and then trying to fit them over? How does that work?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably a combination of both. I mean, I think for the most part and most of what I've written, there's usually a riff there first. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I'll build out the song and then, you know, maybe the song, like the riff in itself has some type of inspiration that then drives the name of the song and the lyrics. So like for California Cruisin', you know, it's a very much like a 70s, like, you know, rock style riff. And the first thing that I heard or visually saw in my mind when I was playing that is like, I think about, you know, driving in LA, you got the, you know, the top down on your convertible, you know. So it's like riffs will inspire sort of like visual things in my mind. Like I'm really big on movies and stuff. Like it'd be cool to like direct a movie or something. So I'm like, I'm almost directing a movie in my head with each song and what I want it to be about. But then sometimes I'll have like the lyrics written first, you know. Okay. There are like sometimes, you know, I might be in the office at work for the day job and, you know, I randomly put some words together. I'm like, oh, that's really good. I'm going to just write that down. And then maybe I'll bring that out later on if it fits in, you know, with something. So it can flip flop, but most times it's usually starting around the guitar. Okay. And it's also unique. Like, my process is not like, all right, let me lay the drums down and the bass down and then the guitars. I will typically do the guitar track first to like a, you know, a click track or something, then the bass, and then I'll kind of bring in the drums after that, which is a little bit backwards, but it's kind of the nature of the platform where everything's built around the guitar tracks for the most part. Okay. So I kind of funnel everything around that. But, and then, you know, from a writing perspective, like with certain songs, like, you know, if it makes sense, I'll bring in like a, you know, co-writer, like, hey, you know, I want you to sing on this track, but like, you know, here's sort of the canvas to paint on. This is the song title. Gotcha. Write your lyrics, and then I might tweak them a little bit to fit to taste, and then, you know, go from there. But yeah, every track's a little bit different, just depending on where things are going with it. So when you're writing, do you have a home studio that you're working with? Yeah, I've got a home studio that I you know, I've built up over the last couple of years, and that's kind of what I work out of. What's your DAW of choice? I'm a Logic guy. That's what I use. I've been thinking about switching to Luna, I think is what it is, for Apollo. Luna's new, yeah. Yeah. So I've got like an Apollo interface. And then, you know, with Sunshine, that was my first track doing like, you know, amp to guitar cab. Mm-hmm. So all of those guitars were like recorded in my my closet. But everything else I've done was either a Boss Katana run, you know, directly out into the interface, or using an aux box, which has been a great tool in the studio for like recording stuff. So
you're recording all these tracks at home, and that's basically self-produced stuff.
Yeah,
not going into a studio.
Yeah, no studio. The only thing I'll do is I will hire like a drummer that might have like a home studio, and I'll say, hey, can you record this part that I wrote?
Yeah.
But everything else is recorded pretty much in that room.
That's awesome, man. We'll get into it in a minute because I like to talk about gear with people and the recording process a little bit more. But you sent over a couple of songs, man. First one you sent over was Mystery.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about this track.
Yeah. So it came about with that first riff, that opening line, and immediately, kind of back to sort of the role playing of movies and stuff in my head. I was like, all right, to me, this reminds me of like an 80s horror film. So really what the lyrics are about and what it's about is like sort of paint a picture for you. You've probably seen some of those, kind of cheesy horror films where it's like, it opens up, you got some kids at a campsite or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, let's go fool around in the woods or whatever, right? Or something like that. And essentially, when that part of the movie cuts in, for the song or whatever, she turns into a werewolf and basically,
eats them alive.
Yeah, eats them alive. So that's really what it's about. I was mainly influenced just from like, I love, horror films and stuff like that. And when I heard that riff, I was just like, yeah, that marries together. The colors marry together, everything on it. So when you did it, you recorded the guitars. Did you have an outside drummer record on this, or was that something that you arranged? I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the drums sort of like, I'll have them prearranged in Logic.
Yeah.
But I'll tell them like, hey, if you can kind of keep it to this, but if there's some ideas you get here or there while you're playing or some variation, like that's cool.
Okay.
You can run with that.
Is there, since you're sending it to an outside drummer, is it somebody in town? Are you sending it out to other friends who might be across the country?
Yeah. So most of them, I've had some people track drums like across the world. I've had some people do it in the area. On this track, my buddy Tim. So Tim, he's played in a bunch of bands in Charlotte, and he lives in Charlotte, and he was actually a drummer in Bourbon. And so that's how we had remained in touch. So for that song, he's got, I think it's called White Oak Recording Studio, I think, here in Charlotte. But it's like basically a home studio, and he's got his drums set up. Like, he's taking his whole home, and it's just like a studio.
Smart.
Yeah. So for this song, I had him do the drums on it.
That's great.
Here in town.
And did you play the bass on it, or did you hire somebody to come into place?
I wrote the bass and played the bass on it. So... yeah, for pretty much, all my songs I've written and played the bass on all of them.
Cool. Who's doing the vocals on it?
A guy named Leo Duke. So he's based out in Nashville. His project called Leo Duke and the North Wind. So he worked with me on Snake Groove Mystery and California Cruising. Okay. And yeah, we've had some really great collaboration. We're trying to get a show. We just played with him this past summer in Nashville, and now we're trying to bring him here for a show here in Charlotte, which would be cool.
Awesome. So, and when you're doing just out of curiosity, when you're writing the lyrics for these and you send it off to a vocalist, do you have the melody in mind for the vocals already? Do you do a scratch track for them?
Yeah, it depends. So like when I worked with Leo, I basically just said, here's the song title. Here's what this song is about. Have fun with it. And so he'll come up with the vocal melody. He'll come up with the lyrics to kind of go over it. Then he'll send it back, and then I'll kind of review the tracks. I'll review the lyrics. Like, does this fit for what I'm doing? Does it sound right? And, we'll kind of go from there. But, like, with a song like High School Fever or Sunshine, I wrote all the lyrics and the vocal melody, and I knew the notes that I wanted, on the range for it to be, but I couldn't sing in that, that high up.
Yeah.
So I would I'd send them, like, a voice memo of, like, me roughly singing it. Obviously would not be, perfect, but
don't judge me.
Yeah. I always open up every memo, like, don't judge what you're about to hear, but they can understand, like, oh, okay, I see what he's doing here.
Yeah. And
the sound he's trying to get on this particular song. So
I tell you what, I don't know if you've had the experience, but has happened to me multiple times. I send people a track.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, this is a rough, rough track. Don't judge, just, thoughts. And they're like, well, I think you could mix this. And I'm like, I just told you.
Yeah.
It was a rough track.
Yeah.
Like, it always cracks me up.
Luckily, the guys I've sent it to for the vocals, like, they don't ever, provide feedback. But But yeah, I mean, it works out because I mean they know exactly where I'm trying to go with it and the melody because I can hear it in my head,
right?
You know, because kind of on the vocal thing, like I just haven't figured out how to communicate that vocally in pitch and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's a myriad of different things. And then with 20, which is an acoustic track, that's when I wrote the lyrics and the melody and then actually sung on it. So, but yeah, I mean, everything I do, it's all independent, all self-produced, all in-house.
Fantastic.
So yeah, it's a good setup.
Did you release this track as a single, or was it part of a larger group of songs?
Yeah, everything I've done so far is a single. This year we're going to try and get 3 more singles out, but I've got an album that I have, but kind of the way I look at it is these singles are sort of me testing which recording processes do I like the most, because the way I look at the album process is it's like if I'm going to do that, I want it to be like great.
Yeah.
And not that the singles aren't great, but the cool thing about it is if you listen to the first one versus now, there's like a huge evolution in the sound quality, the songwriting.
Right.
So I think that's kind of cool to see that. I know a lot of artists only want to publish, if the stuff's gotten better, they'll take their old stuff off, but I kind of like to leave that on there just to show like,
I think so.
This is where I started, Yeah. This is where it's going.
Oh, well, I want to talk about that more.
Yeah.
All right, but let's take a listen to Mystery by the Edward Crowther Band.
Yes.
Awesome track, Edward. Awesome. So I've got a question for you, which you might have said and it just went right in my head and out. Where does this song sit in the catalog for you? Is it one of the first ones you released? Is it?
Yeah, this one was the third release, I believe. Yeah,
okay.
The third one that I had dropped.
Okay.
So kind of early on in the trajectory of just like releasing, my catalog. But it definitely has an evolution from like my first release. So,
and what do you feel like that evolution is? Is it the better quality that you're getting used to the recording process for yourself, arranging, writing?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would say for this one, the introduction of like tube amps with the aux box was a big, quality improvement. And then, I think for this one, I hired someone to do some of the mastering as well. Because for, I think my first songs I had done, I mean, for a lot of them, I've done the mixing and then a little bit of mastering. Mm-hmm. But, over time, I've gravitated to outsourcing that to someone else. Just like focus on the song, be done with it, send it off for mixing and mastering.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, I think just, with this particular track, there was, I think the vision came together really well, and that inspired a lot of the sounds and how we're going to get those, and then knowing the recording process a little bit better for what I'm doing here, I think ultimately shaped this track to kind of sound a lot better. And then also to just be a good song overall from a songwriting perspective.
When you're shipping it out, are you using anybody local to do the mixing and mastering, or is it other people?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to use somebody local. I've reached out to a couple people. I haven't heard from some of the studios, but yeah, I usually use a platform called Sound Better.
Okay.
You know, there's so many professional engineers and you know whatnot you can find on there. So that's what I've been doing for the last couple of tracks. But yeah, I mean, I think up to, I guess you could say, California Cruisin', all of those, I pretty much did most of the mixing on those songs. So
there's I did it when I first started I've been doing recording for a while, but I didn't really take it seriously until several years ago. And what really kicked me in the pants is I started learning how to mix.
Yeah.
And when I did it, I started online with this, I don't mind giving him shout out, Dave Vignola at oh gosh, now I can't remember. Home Recording Made Easy is what it was. So I started taking some of his online classes. Dude, if that's something you ever want to get into, I would highly recommend checking out his stuff, because it really helps develop, one, your skills as an engineer for your own stuff. Because that was my whole goal, similar to you, is write my own stuff, record it, and be able to mix it and master it and release it. I mean, there's a certain thing to having somebody else's ear on it. Yeah. But it's also fun to kind of like...
Yeah, tinker with everything. Yeah. Because, there's specific pieces of gear that I like on my stuff, and I know some people don't have it in their studio, and it's like, all right, you know, we can use, a digital version, or, you know. But, yeah, I think there's definitely a certain sort of level of, you know, satisfaction of like, oh, yeah, I got to mix my own song.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've done that up through Cali. And then I mix and master 20. That's the only song I mastered.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's the other thing is that I'm so picky about it. Like, I will overanalyze every little thing. So that's, and you know, with like, whether it's like you hear a little pick scrape the wrong way or whatever, I
gotta get rid of this.
Yeah, I'm just like, you know, I'll leave it to someone else to deal with.
And that is the problem with recording these days, in modern times, is that we are obsessed with perfection. Mm-hmm. And I had the Sponge Tones on recently. I don't know if you know who the Sponge Tones are. They're an older group from that's been in Charlotte for years. They've been around since like the 80s. Yeah. And they've had a long story career. And Jamie is the engineer, and the other guys in the band, being that they're a bit older, I was curious. I asked them how they feel about leaving errors, and mistakes in it. And I mentioned, you know, certain aspects of recording bands that I love, like Zeppelin or even in Rush, mistakes that occurred. Yeah. And they just left it in. Yeah. So I think we get caught up in this perfection in our recording today, which begs the question to you: do you mind keeping stuff in if you find an error? Yeah. If the performance is right.
Yeah. I think there's been times where like maybe a performance was like 95% there, and like you can hear a little thing or two, but then it's like there's a vibe about that take that's just different than the other ones. Right. So I'll just leave it in there. Okay. You know, because for me, like, I mean, I think on my next single I have coming out, like, I mean, I just moved, and these tube amps are literally like tube amps maybe right, you know, next to me, behind me, and then, you know, I'm recording like literally 5 feet in front of it. Yeah. So you can kind of hear like the, you know, the pick, you know, actually hitting the strings a little bit in the room, stuff like that. Or there's been times too, like, you know, with like all my solos for the most part, they're all improvised, like right there. So like there might be little things here or there that I'm like, oh, you know, could it have been played maybe a little better or whatever? Sure. But like this track had the vibe I was looking for. Yeah. So I just leave it in there, because you can retake all day long. That's like my one thing I'm really bad about is like I'll do 300 guitar takes just to like, and I'm not exaggerating. Like it will be 300 for just like one part, and then, you know, if you got 50 tracks, it adds up.
Well, if you're doing, let's just say you're doing a lot of takes of it, are you doing it all by yourself? Yeah. see, that's also maddening, I find, because then I got to sit there, stop, go back, there is something wonderful about having somebody like, hey man, can you just hit record?
Yeah.
Stop. Let's try that again. So you could just sit there and focus in your own head. But since we are in the age of doing everything ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel that it drives you crazy? Not even just recording it over and over, but having to stop, delete, re-record, do it,
Yeah, I almost sometimes feel like it can take the character out of a track, because like you're just trying to get such a sterile product almost to some degree because you're just re-recording it over and over. And so yeah, I mean, that part is exhausting. Like I think for me sometimes that's why, as much as I love being in the studio, it's like it's tough balancing that, playing shows, managing the business side of my artist career.
Yeah. Because
when I go to do a song, I need to be all committed to that. Like on that day, I can't be filming 15 TikToks, to put on social media if I need to be focused on writing an iconic riff or as iconic as I can make it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, I'd love to get back to like recording into like tape where you have, not so many options, but it's just straight to what you need to do.
Yeah.
Because with the digital stuff, you can just be there for hours.
Yeah.
And it's very grueling, I have found.
You were talking before about, improvising your solos.
Mm-hmm.
So do you try to do the whole solo in one take, or do you track it? Let's say you do 10 takes of the solo.
Yeah.
And each one's a little bit different because it's improvised. Do you listen back and go, I like this, I'm going to cut this, I'm going to put this section in, I'm going to put that section in? Because I know when I did my EP, one of the solos I did called It All Depends on You, I did that where I did a couple of tracks just to kind of, I was like, I really like this idea.
Yeah.
But I don't like the way the rest of it panned out. So I slowly came to, add different parts. Do you do that, something similar?
Yeah. So my approach is like, for me, everything I do has to be recorded in one take. So all the rhythm tracks, there's no punching in.
No, that's not even what I mean.
And then on the solos, on those are all one track.
So you could, but to get a sense of the parts, like you can record it all in one take.
Yeah.
But maybe you record, let's say, three different times.
Yeah.
And it's improvised. You like the beginning of this part.
Mm-hmm.
You don't like the middle of this part, but you like the middle of the third take. So you just start cutting and pasting, not literally in the DAW. Yeah. But let's put all this together, practice putting that together. Yeah. And then record it?
I'll pretty much just one take. Like I won't like, I won't record it and be like, okay, this part sounds good. I'll keep that and change that. Like, there might be, before I actually record, play around a little bit with like, okay, here's the scale that works with this. Let's just see what happens. Yeah. But like usually when I hit, stop recording, if I didn't like that take, I'll just delete it and then hit record again and then
don't even save it to go back.
Don't even go back on it. So some might say it's a little bit crazy, but I have heard of that approach. I think Eddie Van Halen did that for some of his tracks where like they would kind of mesh ideas together and so, but yeah, I mean, like for the single I'm working on now, it's called Mr. Ghostman. Like for that one, I did like a lot of like dual guitar stuff. Yeah. So like with that one, I did like have 8 different, it was the same part played 8 different times. I was like, which two sound the best together? So I did that. But yeah, I mean like Snake Groove, like that solo, just played one through and it's like, all right, that one sounded good. If it didn't, just deleted it and didn't run with it. So
I just know some of my heroes, the way they recorded. Yeah. Like somebody like Randy Rhoads, apparently from what I understood, he's the kind of guy who would write out the whole solo. Yeah. Like he knew exactly what he was doing. He did not sit there and improvise his solos when he recorded. He knew what he was doing. Somebody like David Gilmour, I've heard he'll record stuff and then maybe he'll take this part and, do what I was saying about adding parts. Yeah. Even the same with like a Blackmore or somebody like that. That's the kind of thing they'll do.
Yeah. I'd like to spend more time on pre-production, like on my newer stuff. Mm-hmm. That's because like for me, and I guess being in sort of the modern era of music, like it's such like shotgun and go, like, all right, you need to get this single out, put it out, And so it's like, everything does feel sometimes a little bit rushed.
Yeah.
Is what I have felt. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's just kind of hit record and what comes out, comes out. Like I'll know the key that it's in, and I'll kind of, have an idea of it. But yeah, it's just one
straight up.
Yeah.
God, that's brave.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's a pain because the reason I bring up the rhythm tracks is it's like those are like sometimes those are 4 or 5 minute tracks.
Yeah.
And I will, like, after I record it, I will go back and listen to it with the click, and then I'll go back and listen to it without the click to hear any imperfections.
Yeah.
And if there's one little thing wrong, delete, and then start all the way over.
So how crazy was it when you first started recording and playing with a click? Was it challenging for you to kind of get used to that? Like, oh my gosh.
I think for me, like, it's a love-hate relationship. Like, I totally get the idea of why we have to have the click and stuff, but like, I've also noticed that the DAW and like having to use that has shaped my song sometimes not ways I want. So like when I'm just playing a riff in my room and I don't have the click on, there's like a feel thing to it.
Yeah.
But as soon as I try to have to like figure out the time signature and the click to it, it's like the feel's gone to some degree. It's like, okay, well now everything's, flushed out with each other. That's great. But then it's like some of that mojo and sort of like, imperfection is kind of lost a little bit. So like with 20, that song, that's the only song I have not recorded to a click. I just said, you know what, I'm not dealing with that because with the acoustic stuff, I was having my headphones on and the click kept bleeding through, and I'm just like, all right, I'm not gonna keep going through this.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, I would prefer to have just a drummer I can play off of, and that be the track.
Sure.
But in the world we're in, it's like that costs a lot of money to get all that, and it's like you got to figure out how to do it yourself without, breaking the bank to get the song.
Yeah.
So
well, maybe at some point it's something you want to try is just going into a studio with the group.
Yeah.
Even if it's for one song and like, I just want to record live without, a click track.
Yeah.
Cause then that might help in, in a certain thing where you're like, you don't feel like you lose that groove that you like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'd love to do that. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been in a studio. And I think also too, like just the equipment you can sometimes get access to.
Yeah.
Is a little bit better. So yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely our goal in the future is to somehow figure that out. It's just like, I know for me with the solos and stuff, like I was saying, like the improvisation, like, how do you do that in a studio? Like, because a lot, like, I know there's been people who have told me like, well, if you're going to do in the studio, don't improvise, like make sure you know what you're going to play. And it's like, trying to get all of those things to work in cohesion with each other.
So we talk about improvising the solo. How does that work then transferring it to live?
Yeah.
Do you have to go back and learn the solos that you played, or do you just improvise a different solo when you're playing?
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, like I would have had to have retracked the part until I wanted it to be what it is that I'm pretty familiar with where everything is. But like, there are definitely certain parts that aren't played exactly to the studio. You know, like for example, on my first single, like the end of the guitar solo, I'll play always a little bit differently. Or I'm trying to think of, maybe the end of Mystery I'll do a little bit differently. But outside of those songs, for the most part, like everything else is played just the way it is on the record. Unless, like at Amos's, like at the end of California Cruising, my string broke. So then, that you're going to get an improvised solo on that part. But yeah, that everything else is pretty much played how it is on the recording.
That's a welcome to the world of live music.
Yeah.
For those listening, if you don't know, these things happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't know which song. So I knew the string was giving me some difficulties. I had just did a restring on it, and I didn't probably do the best job on it. All right. So I'm glad it was at the end of the set, not in the middle.
So that makes me ask the question of, which you kind of answered for yourself, but in recent years, it's kind of funny. I've just been really going to a lot of shows, and I like hearing what a band is like live. I think it's a different experience listening to a recording than it is live music. And it sounds like, for the most part, you generally like to keep the songs fairly close to what you recorded rather than do like a random improvised solo for 10 minutes, and keep it going.
Yeah,
or something
like we'll have some like I know at the end of Sunshine, like since that fades out on the record, like we'll extend that into a jam.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, outside of that, I mean, there would be little things here or there. California Cruising has like a super big ending. Mystery, I do kind of like a Spanish guitar thing at the very end. But yeah, I mean, they're pretty much to the record, played very cohesively in a 30-minute set when we go on. And, there are elements to it where, we try and make it how it is on the record, but we do try and add different elements where we're needed, or, sometimes the bass player might do something a little bit different, or drums might sound a little bit different just because you're having different people fill in for those shows.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, we try and keep it as close as we can and, add some cool parts here or there where it makes sense.
There you go. Well, it's good to see because it's, I always just go and see all these groups lately. I'm just curious as what they're like because, man, some bands are completely different live than what you would anticipate in the recording.
Yeah.
And then there are bands like, let's just say you go to see Rush when they used to tour. Rush was pretty much exactly what the album was. That was the way the song was. And then you could go see a band like the Allman Brothers and it's like, no, this solo is going to go on for 10 minutes and we're just going to build it up and we're going to do a whole new jam.
Yeah.
So,
and it's also like with my platform, like, I have different vocalists on tracks. So it's like, High School Fever, you won't hear that vocalist, cause that was, the vocalist who did that. He's based in Canada, so it's like, that's another big thing, like especially as we've kind of, changed out vocalists, it's, trying to get the live product to be somewhat similar to the studio product.
Sure.
Because for a while they were just so wildly different. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, this sounds way different than the studio version.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, we have different vocalists. I need somebody that can kind of be very versatile to do like, can you sing kind of in a pop punk style? Can you do the 80s hard rock thing? To be able to kind of do all those different wheelhouses. So, yeah, and that's another thing with our live performances. Like vocally, it definitely sounds a little bit different than the studio, which can be cool. Something different.
Cool. Well, you sent over a couple other tracks, but can we give a listen to one of the ones that you already just briefly mentioned, Sunshine?
Yeah, Sunshine, yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So before we get into it, can you tell us a little bit about the track?
Yeah. So I wrote this track actually inspired by, like especially in today's world, there's a lot of like decisions or viewpoints around drinking and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I actually wrote this song from the perspective of a younger person kind of like being influenced on social media, the sense of like everyone's like, oh, you should drink or you should not drink. And I'm also really OCD. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it basically kind of goes through my mind of like not drinking and wanting to drink, like in that battle every single day. And just kind of like how drinking has had like an impact, on as me as a musician and stuff like that. And, trying to make sense of all of that. So that's sort of the premise of it, and it's like a very much a hard rock kind of bluesy type song, very much Appetite, Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses influence. So it's got some really cool guitar riffs and solos in it. So
cool. Who are there? Some of the players, are they any locally? You did the guitars and the bass on it? I did
the guitars and bass. The drummer, I think, was maybe in Indonesia. Somewhere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, somewhere.
That's great.
Yeah, somewhere across the world. And then the singer was Ethan Cronin, and so he's based in the UK, and so he did the vocals.
I'm just curious, before we go and listen, how do you find a player in Indonesia, and how do you hook up with somebody in the UK? Is there a website that you kind of found, like where people advertise, and you're like, I like this guy's voice?
Yeah, for the drums, it was through Fiverr. So I found someone through there, and then for the vocals, I've been using Sound Better. Okay. And I've kind of moved all my like outsourcing of jobs to Fiverr, or not Fiverr, Sound Better. Yeah. Just the quality's, a lot better, and you get super talented people. Like, in High School Fever, the guy who did the mixing and mastering, he worked with Taylor Swift. Yeah. So you just get better access to talent through that platform.
Pretty cool, man.
Yeah. So.
All right, let's give a listen to Sunshine.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. This is Sunshine by the Edward Crowther Band. very cool.
Thank you.
I've listened through the catalog even as far as back as Bourbon and listened to the stuff. It is really neat to see a younger player and their progression. Cause I could totally hear the progression of like what happened in Bourbon to as you got a little bit older and your more recent releases. So it's definitely gotten better and better and better.
Yeah. A lot of artists, they'll release like their debut thing and it's like their best work, you know? So I'm kind of glad that I feel like mine's like a slow trajectory up, you know? So it's like everything just gets better with time. So.
Yeah. It reminds me, it's a little different, but there's a band. Have you ever heard of Wolf Mother?
Yeah.
Okay. So the guitar player who became the main songwriter for that band, he gets a bad rap because what they said is one of the things I was reading about them. He did if I compare it to you, it's a different trajectory because they said the music when they started, they actually went into a studio and they had a producer and the sound was great, but they said it got worse as it went on as recent releases because he started doing all the recording himself.
Yeah.
And I'd listen to it and I'd be like, all right, it's not as crisp as the early recordings, but you know, I think when you're an artist, sometimes you want to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Especially given, you know, today's track. So,
reverse
of you, I can hear, you know,
it
was a little looser when you guys did it earlier. And now it's like, oh man, okay, it's a lot better. So,
it's cool to go back and listen to that. And I even have demos too. And it's like, I listen back to them and it's like, man, this has gotten way better you know, with time, which is good because I think I've learned the songwriting process every time I do it more. So, that, you know, getting those reps in is just super helpful around it.
Yeah. It's just the songwriting. And then honestly, with the recording process, it's learning.
Yeah.
Like there is a learning curve doing it.
It's a very big one.
I told you I started mixing a couple of years ago and I go back and I'll listen to the first mix I did. I'm like, oh, you know, and then I listen to almost 3 years later and I'm like, it's much better. Like it's crisper, it's clearer. And I've gotten comments from the mixing communities that I'm part of. The guys are like, man, that's really so much. I have nothing to say.
Yeah.
You know, other than maybe you could tweak this and tweak that. Yeah. Like other than that, it sounds really good. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah.
So
it's all about that progression.
Well, the bad part about it is, and I'm sure you can attest to it yourself, is doing it all yourself as in today's world as a musician. You don't get to concentrate on just writing the music.
No, you don't get to do that anymore. It's like balancing 15 different jobs for one thing. And it can be pretty overwhelming. I mean, I've seen it burn out a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, trying to do the music thing. So
it's not for the faint of heart anymore.
No.
And I don't think it ever was.
Yeah.
You know, the business has changed so much, going along, which is very curious to me. How are you navigating that yourself? I mean, you've got the outside stuff you say you're doing in finance, and how do you balance it? Like all the recording, the business part of it. How difficult is that for you?
Yeah, it's, I actually did a interview with a magazine not too long ago, and they asked the same question, and I told them, I said, they were like, well, how do you get balance? I said, you don't. Like, I mean, as we're speaking right now, like, I'm so burnt out from working, you know, day job, right? You know, having to do everything with the music. Like, my day essentially is like, wake up from 6, 7 in the morning, and don't go to bed till midnight on repeat all the time. And then, you know, you factor in you're doing gigs on the weekends. I mean, those don't get done sometimes till 2 a.m. Right. And some of them require some travel. So yeah, I mean, you don't really get to balance all of it. You know, I think you kind of you're basically in an airplane and you're trying to put it together as it's flying. Yeah. I think that's how I would describe it. And, it's probably not the best way to do it, but like, I haven't seen anyone else kind of figure out a streamlined way unless they have some type of massive support from an agency to kind of, you know, handle a lot of that. But as an independent artist, I mean, you're on your own figuring it all out.
But I'm not even sure that's a thing anymore, like getting a lot of support. I think, and I could be wrong, but from my understanding of what it currently goes on, you as an independent artist, you have to prove yourself already. 1, you have to get the releases. 2, you have to get the following.
Yeah.
3, you have to have people showing up to your shows, and not just, 5 people on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to start getting a lot of people showing up. And then maybe a major label will even look at you once you get all that traction and support. But then there's the question, if you've done all this yourself and put the time in, why do you need them? Because then you have artists like a Joe Bonamassa, a Kingfish, or an Eric Gales. Mm-hmm. Those guys are doing that all on their own. I mean, it's probably a grind.
Yeah.
But at least with Bonamassa, he's got a good support system with the management he's been with for years to support him. But, I mean, how's your thought process on that for yourself today?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, like, and what I've seen with a couple artists, like, maybe they're still in the independent phase, but, like, they maybe have, like, their parents are doing their management for them.
Right.
So I do see a lot of that going on. But, yeah, I mean, I think for me, kind of what you were saying, like, the record deal, that concept's dead for the most part. And it's not really something I think most independent artists aspire for, because it's like, if you're doing it yourself, you've got everything in-house. Right. You are your label, essentially. But yeah, I mean, I think it would be cool to have, like, I have looked in the Charlotte area, I haven't found one yet, but, like, to have someone do booking or, like, certain types of management aspect.
Right.
That would be helpful. But, I mean, in terms of how I'm managing all of it, I mean, it's just like, you're getting pulled a million different directions. Sure. I'll be at work, walking to lunch, and then someone's like, hey, I got a show available. Can you book this? Or do you want to play it? Then you have to negotiate the rate and all that.
Yeah.
Or, maybe a band member's like, oh, I've decided I'm going to go a different path. All right, I got to find someone else now. So, I mean, it's just trying to put as many pieces together and just kind of keep it going, as you can. But it's an interesting landscape. I think, again, you don't, back in the day, you needed the label to find your audience, and now you can find that on your own. But, social media, I think, in a lot of ways presents a lot of challenges for artists. I mean, I've been posting fairly consistently for 3 years, and, I wish I would be further along from a, audience perspective than I am, because, some people post their first 20 things and then they got 20,000 followers, and it's like, that's insane,
Yeah, but I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with, God, I don't want to sound awful. It'll sound awful, but I've seen some artists who are very attractive women might get a little bit more following because they're just wonderfully attractive people. Yeah. Rather than, like, me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay, there's some young girl's 22 and she looks great, and she's a country artist, and she's got 25,000 followers, on Instagram.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is, I guess they call it, like, peacocking. How can I get people's attention super quick? And, I mean, there's definitely, I mean, it's the entertainment space. A lot of that plays into it as well. But, I mean, it's interesting, too, how the algorithm works. Like, I had a meeting with a management firm when I was in LA, and they're like, oh, yeah, you need to be posting 160 times a month to get, and it's like, really? Like, I post 30, 40 times a month already. They're talking about, you need to do, like, speaking, short form content, around your brand as an artist. So it's, like, really interesting, like, and these people are not musicians. That's another thing they kind of add. Like, they're management people that do marketing, which is great, but they're not artists at the core of who they are as a person. So, but I mean, it's a weird landscape that we're in.
But then at that point, you're not becoming an artist anymore. You are becoming a content creator for the internet. And is that the goal?
Exactly. And that's, that's sort of it's funny, when I was coming back from my trip at NAMM, I was a little disappointed because of the snow and, didn't get to kind of finish it out. But I, like, learned a lot on that trip and was just kind of thinking about things. And I was on the plane, and there was this older gentleman. I think his name was Brad. I think it was his name. And he's in a Frank Sinatra band, and they were going to Florida to do a show.
Right.
And it was almost like an aligning of the universe, because, here's this older gentleman who's, done music for a long time. He hung it up for 25 years for his career, but then now he just travels in this band and does it, as much as he can. And we were just talking about, kind of how we're doing just music industry, music. And he was just like, from that conversation reminded me, like, why did you get into music and love it? And it was for me, the creating part, you know, and for me, I'm kind of getting to a point where I think I need to get back into that. The social media thing's great. You can get people to your shows. You can tell people what's going on, but and I have seen it change the trajectory of people's music careers. There's some artists that I have seen it work, but it's like the video they posted had nothing to do with their music. Like I know there's this one girl, I won't name her name just for whatever reason, but she had a video go viral. I think it was of her like surfing or something, not even related to her music, and then that has like completely launched her music career, which is great. And she's got awesome songs. Like she's a great musician, great songwriting, but also too at the same point, even though it's she's selling out rooms and stuff. Like from what I've been told, still not making any money to live off of significantly, and it's like, okay, so you've built a massive following, and it's not economically making a lot of sense here for yourself. So it's just a really weird time. That's the takeaway.
Yeah, it is. That's the question. It's musicians who know the 80s bands, Sebastian Bach from the old band Skid Row, he had said one time, I've got 1 million followers on Facebook, and I can't sell 10,000 copies of my new album.
Yeah.
He goes, this doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And it really is starting to become the kind of thing to me is, what does social media mean besides basically being a billboard to advertise your shows?
Yeah. That's really what it is. And it's just an advertisement. And like you were saying, I think you hit it on the head. Like you're a content creator.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the, management firms are like, what type of content can you create around your music? And there's stuff that I've put out there, like, here's us in the studio, or here's how I record a guitar part, but it's also like you put all this work into it and then it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just spent 3 hours making a video to get, maybe 200 views and a couple likes. That's not going to drive merch sales. That's not going to get people to buy tickets to a show,
Yep.
And it's unfortunate too that the industry has gotten comfortable with that. That's one thing I'm like really passionate about pushing against with some of the industry people is it's like they really want you to convert to that model, and I've seen it work, but at the same time it's like you're losing so much talent through that process because people are getting burnt out on it and they're not going to do it.
The industry wants you to do it because they don't want to.
Yeah.
They want the artist to do everything so they don't have to, and they want to be able to come in and they want to say, this is what it is. I mean, look, I have this theory, and I think I've mentioned it before on the podcast. We have lived already through the golden age of music recording where artists have made a lot of money off their prior recordings.
Yeah.
It's just my opinion. I don't know if anybody else thinks this way. The golden age, let's say, is from 1955 to 2005.
Yeah.
Where artists could sell albums and make money off the recordings.
Yeah.
Now, they're not.
No.
They could have 1 million streams and they'll make $1,000.
Yeah, exactly.
The people who are making money off of streaming, and it's not even close to what they made for album sales, are legacy artists.
Yeah.
And you could I'd make a case for Taylor Swift being in there.
Yeah.
I don't know who's making all this money, and it's probably from live concerts.
Yeah.
But I really wonder in the future if venues like PNC or the Spectrum are going to have artists who are so well known that they are going to go in and pack a venue like that anymore.
Yeah. And to answer that, or my thoughts on it, like, one, I completely agree. I do think that the golden age has happened. And I mean, honestly, if you listen, I have this other theory, like I think it's great independent artists, are out there and whatnot,
sure.
But the quality of music's gone down.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put it this way, like for my songs, I know that they would infinitely sound better if they were, full production. The songs themselves are great, but, not having access to a full blown out studio, like some of these great records, the songs won't ever reach, not that they won't reach their potential to some degree, but they won't ever be, in that camp.
Right.
Until you get that production right. So you see a lot of rock acts or just any act really releasing a lot of music, and it brings the quality down and makes it hard to find really good music. But yeah, I mean, I think to your point on that, in my opinion, it's a broken model.
Right.
You know, you spend all this time on your craft, and not that anyone's owed a music career. You know, you have to work for it, but like the amount of work to make pennies on the dollar, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
You know, and yeah, like, you know, I was talking to some people about this, but it's like, yeah, you know, the big places like PNC, like it's all legacy acts. There's no new bands that are coming in and packing that out.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there'll be some that do find a way to do that. You know, there's always someone that figures it out, but I think, you know, through that, you're going to miss out on so much other talent.
Sure.
That definitely deserves a platform. So yeah, I mean, I don't like, even, and the other thing too is a lot of the rock bands today, you know, and I would even admit I'm somewhat guilty of this as well, but like, it's also somewhat too influenced to some degree of the past stuff. Like, let's try and make something new. You know, there's a lot of bands that are just taking the blueprint and then reformatting it for today,
sure.
which is good. There's nothing wrong with that. It's, you know, it's better than having, you know, all pop music,
sure.
or rap or whatever. But, you know, that's an important thing around it too, is like, are these artists even going to be original enough to get into rooms like that?
Right.
And that's, I think, something they're going to have to, like, that's why for me, I've gone under a rebrand recently to try and fit that niche of like, hey, we'll bring something old, but there's going to be something new coming along with my future releases of music, because I see a lot of bands and they're doing the same thing. And it's like, hey, I'll listen to your record once, but this is not something I would pick up again and put on my turntable.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's just a weird time.
Well, I do like the way you're kind of trying to market yourself, just going back to the old Guitar Hero kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's great the way you're kind of, in a sense, you're doing kind of almost a Joe Bonamassa kind of thing, where Joe, mm-hmm. and I don't mean to sound in any way derogatory. Joe is an amazing guitar player.
Yeah.
I go see him every
Yeah.
time he comes, because he puts on a fantastic show, and he's a great player.
Yeah.
But when I go see Joe Bonamassa play, I can hear Eric Clapton. I can hear
all the influence,
every
the good
influences,
stuff.
and he wears it on his sleeve, and that's fine. Yeah. Like, but I can't argue that man can play a guitar.
Yeah.
Like, he plays, and he writes good songs.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I like his stuff. I have a bunch of his albums, like, and I can listen to them.
Yeah.
So I like that you're kind of taking that Joe Bonamassa model of like, hey, look at this. I'm kind of taking all my influences and I'm repackaging it, and I'm saying, look, I'm Edward Crowther. Yeah. Like, I'm taking all this stuff that's come before, but I'm doing it as a younger guy, and I'm saying, look, here.
Yeah. And it's always good to hear that, because it's funny, I've gotten a lot of criticism from people on that, and it's interesting, because it's like, I mean, half these people, they don't even know how to pick up an instrument, and this is like random people on social media that'll, but, I mean, I think also too, like, everybody's influenced by someone. Sure. Like, that's going to show through no matter what. So, it's always good to talk to someone that understands that. And it's also not a bad thing, like, because I know for me, like, I'm, very much influenced by Slash, but it's like, you're, if you want to pay $300 to go see him with Guns N' Roses and, Axl not sing well, that's your choice. Yeah. But you can come see our show a lot cheaper. And it's going to be totally different than a GNR thing. But, know, if you want to see those influences in a live setting, like you're saying, come to a show. It's a great time.
I mean, that's the thing. The only thing with today I'm finding with music in general, and Beato's covered this a lot too, is one, you say, there's nothing new. Yeah. Well, one, you have a difference of a Nashville kind of thing where you have like the same 10 people writing all the songs that are released. Well, of course they're going to sound the same. Yeah. And you have the same set of musicians playing on all the recordings. Yeah. That kind of does it. Another thing, what might be a good thing or a bad thing, I haven't decided yet, is that you have a lot of people like myself or you, where we are the creative artists and we're writing. So everything falls on our shoulders, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
As opposed to like being in GNR and you've got, Steven Adler's drums, they're a certain way to create that sound and Duff and all these guys working together. Because you could tell with like GNR, Izzy's not in the band anymore.
Yeah.
That kind of like, and I've heard their new stuff and it sounds okay.
Yeah.
But it's not old GNR with the groove in it the way it was with
by the
with
hip
Izzy.
kind of it's, and I mean, and that goes back to exactly why I did the solo thing, because like once you start bringing people out of a band like that, your sound as a brand changes, and it's not what people are, fell in love with.
Yeah,
and then you're just kind of stuck with wherever you're at.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy thing, but it's going to be interesting because I feel like, and you may feel the same way. It's better for you in the sense coming at it at this time being younger, because you're kind of seeing how the landscape is.
Yeah,
you're not an older musician who's like shouting at clouds, being like, when I was your age, I could go sell 5 million albums, and now I've got a house I can't make. You're like, well, this is just the landscape I grew up in, so now I've got to figure it. I don't have that past to figure it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then everybody else is in the same boat. But what I'm curious about to ask you is, do you talk to a lot of younger musicians, and how do they feel about the same navigating this landscape to you?
Yeah, I think a lot of them feel the same way I do. They're very frustrated, and I think that they're, and that's not necessarily to sound negative. It's just like I'm passionate about. Like, I do think there are some problems with the industry itself that, like, as musicians, if we don't kind of understand that, hey, we got to figure a way out to solve these. Like, you're not going to have a great music scene. Whether that's locally, regionally, globally. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the artists I speak with that I'm friends with, like, they're facing the same frustration on, like, I can't post enough, not getting enough traction. There's also other things where, they feel like that there's just no opportunities, right? And it's unfortunate. I mean, I have seen some of my, friends pack up their whole lives in a suitcase and move to pursue this. And it's like,
to like Nashville or something like that?
Nashville, LA. And listen, kudos to them. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, love the aspect of going all in. I once had that. But, like, seeing where things are, it's like, I think you have to change some things here first for that to really make sense.
Right.
Because, you're not going to be able to build that career. Like, a lot of them want that original artist career. And it's like, well, hey, if you're stuck on Broadway playing shows, you're going to maybe get some opportunities. You're going to meet some people, but that's not building your brand as an artist.
Sure.
You're playing cover gigs, then you're stuck there paying your bills, and you can't go anywhere else because there's nowhere else in the world that's like Broadway that can pay $60K a year, to play music. So, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of them are frustrated is kind of what I've picked up on. And I think that's been something that's been interesting to kind of see. And then, I think, you have the artists that have figured it out, or they have figured some form of it out, and I think that they're super grateful for it. But even when you talk to them, they don't really know. I don't know. It seems like they're kind of running around and they don't really know what's going on either. And even then, maybe they get the following and then they don't know what to do with it in terms of next steps.
But I think the question is, and I'll ask you the question too, is what do you want?
Exactly.
What is your idea of success?
Yeah.
We spoke about it earlier, like me, just what I'm doing is for me, I live a dream.
Yeah.
Like, yes, when I was younger and I was a teenager, it was playing Madison Square Garden. But now I'm like, man, I'm a music educator. I get to do a podcast. I go out and I perform, and I've got a smidgen. And if you can't see, my fingers, it's like a tiny little smidgen of local notoriety.
Yeah.
Where people go, I call someplace and I'm like looking for a gig and they're like, oh, I've heard of you.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm good with that. And I'm good with recording and putting out music that I do. And I'm happy to do it. Do I need 5 million listeners on Spotify? No.
Yeah.
It would be great. I wouldn't complain, but that I get to write and record my own stuff and release it.
Yeah.
So I guess my question to you is, what do you want out of it? And then, after you answer that, what do you think some of the other younger folks, what are they expecting out of it?
Yeah.
So what are you looking for?
Yeah. Well, and I like the way that you kind of frame things, because I think for many people, like you were saying, they have that big view of like a stadium, like I want millions of people screaming my name, singing my songs, and that's great, that's cool. But I also think, let's be realistic, on some things. And for me, like when I look at like my brand and what I'm doing, like I don't view this as like a Wembley Stadium type act. I would love to be touring, in the U.S., playing theaters, clubs. I mean, think about Joe Bonamassa, like that type of career, or a Slash and the Conspirators, like that's the dream. That would be great because, I mean, playing stadiums could be cool, I'm sure. Never done it, so can't say, how I feel on it. But, for me, it's like that goal actually seems obtainable, and then building a catalog and a merch around that. But then I think, too, like I know for me, like if I could make, $100K off my music a year, that would be it. Like if I could do that, that would be awesome. And build my business around that. Like if you put numbers behind it. But yeah, I mean, and then I think too, to your point, like it's also being able to do that with not losing the passion. I think if I have to then become, subjected to all the other stuff around that comes with this on my own, and I lose my passion, then it's like, well, then maybe it is better to just create, in my home studio and then forget the rest, because then the rest of it might not be worth it. Yeah. But that's for me, I would just love to play mid-sized venues like the Fillmore, or it'd be cool to play Red Rocks, but, anything above that, I'm not like chasing, stars in my eyes, like, and, I kind of like building a niche community around my music. Like there's a couple guys I talk to, we're all like Gibson Les Paul, Marshall guys, and we talk about releases from artists like me or others and stuff, and like that community you don't get sometimes on a bigger level, right? So I really appreciate that. But I think for a lot of artists, I think a lot of them don't know what they want. Like I think the answer I just gave, I think most would not be that specific, at least from the people I've spoken to. Like there, like again, there's an artist I know out of Atlanta. She's got a ton of followers. Okay, the goal is to do music full time, but then what do you want your life to look like? Sure. I don't think they have that figured out. I think a lot of them are trying to get by every single day. So it's different. And then there are some people I have met where they want the whole 9 yards. Right. They want the stadium and all that. And I can tell from meeting them the first time, like, that's never going to happen, because there's not a lot of them, maybe they don't have the drive for it. Like I think a lot of people don't think about it, but like when you think about like an artist like Taylor Swift, man, she works really hard. Like if you could follow her schedule and what she does, and most artists, they're not willing to put that type of time in, or maybe they don't have the time, So there's a multitude of factors that kind of go around with that. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, I think, are just trying to chase some form of notoriety on social media, and hopefully that gives them access to their music, but then they don't really know what to do with that. So I think a lot of people, I think, honestly, around this music thing, I think they're just kind of lost, floating through what's going on.
Do you think they don't realize what it all entails? It's just kind of like the dream. You've been sold this Disney dream of like, I'm going to be a Disney princess in a sense, I'm going to marry the prince and I'm going to live in a castle and I'm going to write my own songs and the recording company's going to pick me up and I'm going to get a contract and millions of dollars and adoring fans. And that's the way it works.
Yeah. I think that is a lot of it. And I think too, it's like, they haven't thought it out. Like, I bet you if you were to like, all right, so this is, finance version of me talking, right? Yeah. Some of these musicians I've spoken to, like, have no 401k, no form of savings. Oh God, yeah. And it's like, it's like, hey, like you gotta plan for that stuff. Like I see a lot of artists, they don't know what to do with that. They don't even know how to set up like their merch, a website. And that's the other thing too, is it's like you have to do it all on your own in this market. And it's like, if you don't know how to do that, you won't be successful. But to your point, there is that dream. And like we were talking about this, like, I'll let the venue remain nameless in LA, where it's like they're selling you a dream and they know someone's a sucker enough to pay for it. And it's kind of that whole facade, smoke and mirrors. Yeah. And yeah, it's just not like that anymore. I mean, there's a really great YouTube video. I think it's Spencer Sutherland. He's a rock artist, and he talks about like when he goes on tour, like his bank account, he just sees it just disappear, and it's painful for him to watch. But that's the other thing is when you actually are even somewhat making it, you're just not.
Yeah,
they don't even know.
Well, I think there's one. There's plenty of YouTube videos I've watched, and I just kind of, as an older musician who's been through, and I'm not even saying I'm like this seasoned touring musician with. Yeah. No, man. I'm just a local musician who's played in restaurants and bars, and I teach and I do my thing. But I know enough to know that, like, some of these, let's say if you're a backing musician and you go on on a tour. Yeah. Like, some of these guys don't make as much as you. What do you think? If they're making $1,000, $2,000 a gig? Yeah. Like, no, those guys are making like a couple of $100 a gig. Yeah. And maybe they get a per diem. Yeah. And if you, in my head, when I think about it, if you do the math on the amount of hours, and let's say you get paid $300 for that night, what is that, $10 an hour for the day or something like that? That's pretty much what you get paid. Yeah, it's not good. I mean, I had a country artist ask me to go out on the road with them. I guess it was sometime this past year in 2025, but. Yeah, like they started off with like, well, here's what we're going to pay you, and then as I got on the phone with their management, that rate dropped $40,000, and then they wanted me to quit my job. And it's like, and the artist is great. He's a great guy. Still in touch with him, but it's like very clear, like, hey, like you're not really offering a lot of value here. Yeah, like, and the big thing about it is like. We're all, a lot of us are adults now, right? Doing music. Like, we're not teenagers that can sleep on the couch and, eat junk food all day. Yeah. Like, nobody wants to do that, Right. I think there's a certain level of, I believe, sacrificing for your craft. I don't believe that should come in, I can't pay my bills or I can't actually buy food for myself. And I see a lot of people, they go down that path and they end up on the other side with absolutely nothing. And it can be tough. But yeah, I mean, like, like to your point, these big artists, some of them are not really getting, I feel like, the right career benefits they should. Right. And I think from that experience I had, like, I remember when they first made the offer to me, I was like, all right, I'll quit my job for this. And then as soon as the manager, I told him the rate that was offered to me, he's like, where did you get that number from? Yep. And him and the artist weren't on the same page around it. God. Well, one of the things is you say that about the money kind of thing. It's Tom Cruise's ex-wife. She was married to Keith Urban, the musician. And I watched something on YouTube how he had just recently dumped his whole band. Yeah. And these were guys who were apparently with him for years. So my point being is, like, these guys were probably on a retainer for whatever to go on tour. Let's say, I don't even know, I'm making up a number, but I'm guessing since it was his band and some other things I've seen. Let's say their retainer was $75,000 a year. Yeah. And that's what they were getting paid to be on retainer to go on tour. And whenever he needs them, they come in. Right. He just dropped them. Yeah. And I think one of the guys was his bass player or something like that. Somebody had been with from the beginning. It's not solid.
No, it's not foolproof.
And even some of the musicians that I admired, do you know many of them I go at least once a month? Yeah. Or several times a year. I go on Facebook and they've got to go fund me for health concerns. Yeah. Because they didn't have the money, they didn't save the money or whatever happened. And now they're guys in their 60s. Yeah.
I see a lot of that. Yeah.
Who can't make it. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's you hit the nail on the head with it. I mean, I've seen, especially the GoFundMe's, like I feel like I've seen like 12 of those. Yeah. The last couple of months. And I totally respect them, trying to make their money and whatever, or what they got to do. But it's like, even when we're talking about this too, like, you can now like meet rock stars through social media, which is cool. Yeah. Right. But like, I know a lot of them will charge you money to just talk to them, and I get it. Like, you can get some great advice from them. But there are some that I have done where you just spent, $300-400 to talk about how they went on tour with some great big band, and then you didn't get any of the advice, and it's like, so, and I think the other part about that is it's like, that's not what, I think when people think about getting into music, that's not what they think about.
Yeah.
That's not making money off your art. It is, but it isn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's like, for me, like as a musician, like that's not the type of career I want. I don't want to charge people because I spoke to them on the phone. I want them to like my music. It's a totally different path.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things that people getting into music don't understand the way it works, and I'm not the first one to say it, but there's music and there's the business.
Yeah.
And you better understand the business part.
Yeah.
I've even heard stuff of people, and you may have experienced this or heard about it yourself, is people going to buy onto tours.
Yeah.
Like they'll go on a tour with a major act, but you think the major act just plucked them out and was like, these guys are amazing. We're going to have them on the tour with us. No, those guys paid like $3,000 or whatever it is, that fee, to just go out and be the opening act for this group.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was on a call a couple weeks ago. I'll let the bands remain nameless, but the buy-on cost was $200K.
Wow.
To get on. And I'm talking about like a massive stadium tour.
Yeah.
As a very well-known early 2000s rock act. I'll say that. But yeah, and they basically said the way that they paid for it is the smaller band that was opening, I think their grandfather had money laying around and wrote the check. So it's like, you hear stuff like that, and there's like another act, it was like $75,000 to open for him. So yeah, as you mentioned, like you don't see any more of like, oh, I plucked this artist because I love what they do and I want to bring them on the road and develop them.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like there's a responsibility of bands that have already made it to do that.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of that going on. They kind of, once they get wrapped up in through a management process, you have to go through management to kind of, at least from my experience, is what I've, I think Buck Cherry's coming through Charlotte, and I had messaged them about doing a show with them, and their drummer Francis was super nice enough to get back to me, but he's like, we don't handle any of that. It's either promoter or someone else, and it's like, if you can't break in through that, you don't even get a shot. So it's no more of, at least from what I've seen, it doesn't really seem that the bands are really picking who comes on tours and stuff like that.
God, it's amazing once you get into it,
Once you see that behind the curtain, it's not pretty.
I use that term all the time, my buddy. It's like, what's behind the curtain is not what you think it is, man.
You kind of wish it was still,
my gosh. There. Well, it's so nice. And like I said earlier, to just talk to somebody who's a younger musician navigating this, but where you got a good head on your shoulders and you realize and you see what's going on. You're not just like, got stars in my eyes. And you could be like, if I could just come up with $200,000, I can go open for a state. Like,
yeah.
Is that going to translate later on for a living? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it's a lot of it is pay to play, and how much money can you throw at it? I mean, I had one person tell me that if you're not spending at least $150,000 on your band, don't even try and compete because you won't make it. So it's like,
but is there any making it?
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's like, do you wait 15 years to have a shot?
Yeah.
Some people might do that, and that's great. But I think most people, probably wouldn't go down that path. And I think the other part around that is, like, that's so not sustainable. Like, it shouldn't be that way. It's the other caveat that I would say with that is, like, we need to find ways as an industry to be like, okay, how can we support this? Or, like, I think Rick Beata did a video on this, like, the missing portion of the middle-class musician. Like, it's being completely eradicated.
Oh, you say middle-class musicians are pretty much paid what they did in the 80s and the 70s.
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore, So, I think there's a lot to unpack on that and trying to get it to be somewhere that, it needs to just be beneficial for everyone involved.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be one party gets all the reward and the other doesn't. Because I've seen these management people and whatnot, they will prey on younger artists. I mean, I've seen people issue me contracts thinking that I don't know what I'm talking about, and they think I'm going to sign and give them $5,000.
Right.
And it's like, no, you got my name wrong in the contract. Like, it was a copy and paste contract, and this guy didn't change the client name out. And I was like, hey, you seem like a cool person, but you got my name wrong. Like, my name is not Daniel. It's Edward. Did you just copy this over for someone? And that's sure enough what they're doing. A lot of them are. They
don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah. They're just issuing contracts. Who will pay me money? And then they don't want to do anything.
Wow.
It's insane. It's the Wild West.
I mean, the good thing is that there's so much information out there now. Like I was saying earlier, you just watch some YouTube videos and you could find out a whole mess of stuff. You listen to podcasts.
Yeah. You'll learn a lot on this one.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody listens, they'll just hear, wow, I need to find out some of this stuff on my own, or maybe I need to investigate this and follow some stuff. It's not just like, oh, I need a video I do on Instagram to go viral and I'll, make it and fill clubs and make millions of dollars.
It doesn't work. No.
Man. Let's go on to some happier stuff.
Yeah.
I'm real curious, man. You have got to do something this year that was on my bucket list, which goes to the NAMM show.
Yeah.
Was that a North American music,
something like that.
Yeah.
It's, no, I had not been before.
Now I got to Google it.
Yeah. It was something I had always wanted to do, but I went out there, when I first got there, stayed in LA for the first couple of days, went to the Whiskey and saw the Ultimate Jam Night, and then went to, the actual convention on the opening day, which was Thursday. And that was my only day there due to the snow and having to come back early, but it was really cool to just see so many talented, musicians. I think, you feel really inspired by that because it's like, oh my gosh, there's people that are this good. I could be that good, too, but then, the equipment's awesome. They had all sorts of new amps and pedals and it was cool because when I tell people that are not in the music business, what this is like, I'm like, so think about going to for example, if you're in finance, I was telling this to my coworkers before I was leaving, so you go to a finance event, right, and you're networking with these people, right? Maybe it's a CEO of companies, whatever. So imagine every rock celebrity or music celebrity, but we're all there networking because this is our industry, So, I mean, it's you're kind of walking and then you're like, oh my gosh, that guy's in that band. What? That's so weird.
Well, if you're listening, just not to interrupt you, Edward, but if you're not sure what it is, I'm talking about NAMM or NAMM. It's the National Association of Music Merchants.
Yeah.
And every year they have a big event in California. And they used to do a summer one in Nashville.
Yeah.
Which they don't do anymore. So what Edward was speaking about is that you go to this event at the convention center, and rock stars show up and all sorts of musician or music companies have booths where people navigate to. So you could have Gibson guitars there. You could have Boss pedals and other ones. So what was when you got there, what was it like? What was it?
Yeah, I mean, so when I first got there to get my badge, I had somehow gotten the times wrong. So I was I thought I was going to get early access in, and I didn't. So I was like, oh, crap. So I was waiting for an hour and a half for the convention to open. And then you get into the convention, and then there's the door to actually get in, and they got security there.
Okay.
So then in the span of 30 minutes, it is packed. People are just ready. It's opening a, farm door and all the animals are running out, and
it's like Black Friday.
Yeah, it's really like Black Friday, and leading up to it, my advice is try and go to the bathroom before because the line is a mile long.
Wow.
There's so many people, ready to hit that door and go to all the places. And then they open the doors and then everyone just, goes in and it's complete chaos. And you walk in there and you realize this place is freaking massive. I'm probably over exaggerating, but they felt 200, feet tall or foot tall ceilings and stuff. And it's just this building, the convention center just runs forever.
What is it, the LA Convention Center or something?
Anaheim Convention Center.
Okay.
I think.
It's in Anaheim. I'm sorry, I said LA. It's in Anaheim, California.
But, and it's 3 floors of all things music. And there's all these different booths. It's very overstimulating, but at the same time, it's also really cool because you'll find the stuff that you like. There's a little guitar section. So I was kind of camped out there the whole time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, you see all this new equipment that's coming out. But I mean, I think the coolest thing is like these people you see on YouTube representing these companies, and they're just there in person.
Oh, like Gallagher from Sweetwater.
Yeah,
Sweetwater there.
Yeah, you could just go up and talk to them, and they're like
Gallagher.
You know, they're super nice, and for the most part, and you know, you get to see all the cool stuff they're releasing, and yeah, it's a little bit of like a pinch me moment. I think when I first got in there, I had to like kind of adjust myself, like. Oh man, like I watch that guy's YouTube videos every night before going to bed, looking at gear. Like there he is in person, you know. But yeah, I mean, I recommend for every musician, like you gotta at least do it.
It's a pilgrimage.
Once. Yeah, and the events around it are great. I mean, they have live music. You know, they'll have demo sessions. Like Kiki, who's the new Smashing Pumpkins guitarist, like she did a pickup thing for guitars for Seymour Duncan's, like demoing some new pickups.
Right.
So she was like playing a couple songs. So it's like you'd just be walking and, you know, there's someone like that playing right next to you.
So the nice thing for us is that you could do it as it's a vacation almost.
Yeah.
But it's actually a tax write-off because you could write off everything just going to this music convention because that's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're looking for like a $3,000, $5,000 tax write-off.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
And we talked about it. You said it was not a cheap trip.
No.
I mean, it's fairly expensive.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, obviously being on the West Coast, that's a big part of it. But yeah, I mean, to go to these events, you know, to meet the people, you know, there's also like concerts that go on through NAMM. So like with each of those, you have to pay to get in and all. So I always tell people, like, if you're going to go, like really plan out how you're going to go and like where you're going on the floor, who you want to meet. There's a lot of private events that happen or things that aren't announced on the actual NAMM site. So like, you know, if you want to see like, you know, let's just say it's Slash playing at Magnatone, that might not be advertised on NAMM, but Magnatone might be advertising it that he's going to drop by the booth at this time or something. Not that happened this year. If it did, that would have been super cool. But yeah, stuff like that. But overall, I mean, it was an awesome trip, and you meet so many cool people. Like, I got to meet like Ira Black, he was in Bullet Boys and did a bunch of other projects, and more of a metal guitarist, and some other people. And yeah, they're all super friendly too. Like that's the other thing is like, I think coming from Charlotte. And go to LA, like you kind of, at least for me, I felt a little out of place, you know, because it's like, oh man, these cats are like, you know, doing the thing, you know,
right?
And you know, you want to be able to kind of, you know, feel like you're a player on the same, you know, caliber, and but it was kind of cool, like being able to represent, you know, my community, and you know, people like, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Charlotte, you know, and I think there was Vera Guitars, I think they were there, their shop here. So,
nice fellows over there.
Yeah, I've gone there a couple times. So, yeah, I highly recommend it to anyone that hasn't done it.
I would love to go. It's on my bucket list, but I'm also curious because I mean I've been to a music educators convention that they have here, and they had, I think it was in Winston-Salem when I went. Mm-hmm. So, do they do like talks and stuff like that? Oh, yeah. That kind of stuff?
Yeah. They do. They had like an AI one. They had one on like social media, that marketing, everything that you could think of.
Are those extra? Like, do they cost extra? Or are they like these
free.
Times? That's great.
Yeah. So you can just, you know, you look on the schedule and go to whichever one. And I didn't attend any this year, but it did look like that a lot of people were going to them. So they're not like you go in there and there's like 2-3 people, like, you know. And there's also some really cool like celebrity guest appearances, or like, shouldn't probably say celebrity, but like just like music industry people that are super professional and well known, that you would be like, oh wow, like, you know, I could sit here and listen to this guy talk for an hour about his career. I think Rick Beato was there this year, if I'm not mistaken. So like people like that, where you can just get access to them, whereas you probably would never get that elsewhere.
Sure.
Know?
Wow, that's such a great experience, man. And you pretty much enjoyed it?
Yeah, it was the weather was much better than Charlotte.
We had a snowstorm. That Edward had to rush back. You had to rush back, right?
Yeah, it was, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, it was a great trip. You know, it was actually the first time I'd flown by myself and traveled by myself. So it was like, that whole part of it was also very new for me. But yeah, going to the Sunset Strip was really cool. Got to eat at the Rainbow.
Nice.
we went to the whiskey and.
Did you see that statue of Lemmy in there?
Yeah, I made sure to get a picture before I left.
Ah, fantastic, man.
So, we didn't have a cigarette to put in his mouth before he left, but,
is that something that you're supposed to do?
Yeah, or like, some people will buy him drinks and they'll, I think he's got like a hand out and you can leave him around the statue. So
to buy Lemmy a drink is $55.
Yeah. And he's not going to be able to drink it.
Yeah.
So it'll just sit there. But, I mean, it was a great trip and I met some guys that I had been talking with on social media for a while. So like being able to make those connections was like great. Those would be like lifelong friends that are, doing the music thing just like I am.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was really cool. And, you meet people from all over and, those connections lead to other things, future show bookings, recordings, all that. But I highly recommend going if you've never been.
It's on my bucket list for maybe this year for 2026. I'll see how I can make that happen.
Yeah.
I know there's definitely one guy that I know on social media. Well, I went to high school with him and he goes I think he's there almost every year.
Yeah.
Posting about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, man.
It's great. And the performances are awesome too. Like, they'll be at different booths or like there's an actual stage in front.
Yeah.
I think that one is free to get into, but like, it's just cool to see some of the performers. They have some, I know like Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins was there this year, and he did a performance. That one I think you did have to pay to get into, but outside of that, like a lot of them you could just playing on the side of the road or whatever, or out in the courtyard.
Yeah, he's got a great podcast. If you haven't listened to that one,
it's
Magnificent Others.
He just did one with Stephen Piercy of Rat.
Yeah.
It's a very good podcast. I've watched that a couple times. So.
I'm surprised he didn't set up a booth there and just talk to people.
Yeah, I know. I think he was getting some type of award. So
good for him.
Yeah. So he was, I think, kind of enjoying the praise on that. I forget what it was for, but he did go to one booth. I think there was an amp, Laney amp, I think is what it's called. He was doing some demos there. I missed that. I did not know. And that's like, again, that's one of the things that they didn't announce. I was like, if I had known about that, I would have been there at that time.
But there is I think you said earlier, there is a listing of events of what's going on at what time and what booths and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and some of it will be company specific, but they do have some stuff on the NAMM site. But I would say that the NAMM site, from my experience, like did not cover like the good stuff. Like there's so many other like secret performances, or not like secret like in the sense that they don't want people knowing about it. It's just not advertised the same way.
Right.
So, but yeah, it was a great trip. Definitely will probably try and make it out there next year.
Awesome.
Permitting there's no bad weather in the area.
Fantastic, man. It inspires me to go do it this year. So I think I may do Red Rocks this summer, which you kind of mentioned, doing some stuff there. And then I think I might have to do, California this fall.
I would recommend it. You will not regret it. So,
I mean, if it's on the bucket list, how are you gonna?
Yeah, I think, and especially if you're like a rock fan, like seeing that whole area too is just like it's very historic.
Yeah. So,
it's not as what it used to be. I remember for when I went in high school, because I was thinking about moving out to LA. I was like, man, this isn't like the YouTube video that I saw, and now being a lot older, I, kind of, put the pieces together and why that is. But it's still super cool to be like, oh, wow, this band played here, or this was their apartment when they were trying to make it and all that.
Well, if you haven't seen it, there's a movie called The Fall of the Western Civilization Part 2.
Yeah.
That kind of is the epitome of what that LA scene was like in the 80s when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Not that I ever lived out there or went there, but have you seen it?
I've heard of it. I don't think I have seen it, but I will add that to the list.
It's worth it. And then another good one. It's not about that scene, but is have you ever seen the movie Hired Gun?
That sounds familiar.
It's a whole bunch. It's all about side musicians who play with everybody. Jason Kidd is his name.
Okay.
He used to play in Five Finger Death Punch.
Okay.
And I think it's his film that he put together, and there's a whole bunch of famous musicians on it.
Okay.
Amazon.
It's
free on Amazon.
Okay.
Check it out.
I'll check that one out.
So Edwards, we start bringing things to a close here at the Queen City Music Podcast. Number one, Have you got anything coming up? We're going to be releasing this episode in March.
Yeah.
So what do you got coming up in March?
Yeah, in March, we've got a show on the 28th at Junction Drinkery. We're going to be playing there with a bunch of different rock bands. It's sort of like I think it's like a mini festival type thing.
Okay.
Still waiting to hear all the details on it, but we're going to be playing there. We're also playing at Petra's in April. I believe that's Thursday, April 30th.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I mean, we're still booking the calendar for the rest of the year. I know we're going to go back to Raleigh in October. We might try and get there over the summer. And then really trying to get as many gigs, here in the Charlotte area. So hopefully we would be returning to Amos's. I know we're playing at Smokey Joe's in February, but I'm sure we'll probably be back there later on. But, yeah, for March, we've got that one show as of right now. And then for the year, trying to release 3 singles, so...
Okay. One of the things I was curious, it just hit me. I forgot to ask you, but you're doing the band thing. Have you ever done any of those or thought about doing any of those, turning your songs into acoustic ones and doing some of those singer-songwriter rounds with somebody?
Yeah. I think, I mean, if I could sing, I think that would be something I'd be willing to do. Yeah, I mean, my current vocalist, his name's Tyler Cameron. We've talked about, like, it'd be cool to do, like, just an acoustic duo, him and I.
Yeah.
We've got a PA and, like, go around and play to, like, some of these smaller places, maybe throw some covers in there. But, yeah, I have seen those, but I haven't thought about putting necessarily my music on that, So I think I'd probably need to take the vocal lessons first.
Oh, I mean, even if you took your singer with you.
Yeah, or if he comes with me, yeah, we can. If he comes with me, we can make that work. Yeah.
I was like, I forgot to ask him if he's done any of that,
Yeah.
man. That would be great to, just
Yeah.
narrow down the songs a certain way.
Yeah.
But, hey, that's just me thinking.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I always like being able to take like a hard rock song and make it acoustic. It transforms it in a whole nother way.
I think I just saw Slash did some. I mean, I'm sure he did a while ago, but he did it with Miles Kennedy, and they did an acoustic version of "Sweet Child of Mine."
Yeah.
And I was like, that's really nice, man.
I've heard that one. I'd love to do something exactly like that. I've got a Gibson Hummingbird at home that I love to play, and that would be like the perfect guitar to kind of bring that one out. I don't get to play that one as much, so might be a good excuse.
Guitar.
Yeah, it's awesome. So
cool. And if we want to just going back, how do we get in touch with you? We want to find out all things Edward Crowther.
On social media, Edward Crowther Music. So just at Edward Crowther Music on everything. That's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And then if you want to follow a little bit more closely on my website, it's edwardcrowthermusic.com. All my tour dates are on there. You can buy merch, which helps support the band. There's a donation section. Got an EPK on there as well. So if you're, own a venue and looking for original music, you can check that out. But, and there's also like a mailing list. So I send out some stuff that's a little bit more customized. That's not always on social media, to people that are subscribed. So
that's awesome. Well, dude, it's been great having you on and talking and getting to know all about you and everything that you've done. Like I said earlier, we follow each other on social media, and it's nice to meet another musician in town.
Yeah.
Especially somebody who's younger and is doing original stuff and is navigating the scene as well as you are.
Yeah.
So.
Well, no, I appreciate it. And thanks for having me. This was great.
All right, man. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening to episode 96 of the Queen City Music Podcast, and I hope you'll go back and check out past episodes. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends. As always, if you have an idea for an episode or would like to be a guest on the QCMP, reach out to me at, you guessed it, qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Also, check out our local partners, Charlotte New Music at charlottenewmusic.org, Black of the Berry Lemonade at btblemonade.com, and our newest local partner, the Evening Muse at eveningmuse.com. And if you would like to become a local partner yourself, touch base with me at qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Also, until next month, get out there and support the local Charlotte music scene by hearing some of the talented musicians who call our city home.